Good day to all saints. Hope you are all doing well. Welcome to our book review session. I'm so excited for today's session. It's a session that's for the books. That's for the books. Though it's a book review program, but it's still for the books. We're going to be reviewing the book that I then had mentioned in our first book review program that we had then uploaded on our YouTube platform at Butilezi. The address of our YouTube page, I'll put it somewhere down here. The book that we're going to be reviewing is called Daniel Goleman, who's the author. It's called Focus, the Hidden Driver of Excellence. So this book has, if you look at the table of contents of this book, it has 7 parts to it. But I'm not going to go or dive into every part of this book because this book is very extensive and I don't want to do an entire part 1, part 2, part 3 of a book review. No, the whole point and purpose of any book review program is to just give you a taste, just to bait you so that you can get excited when you go into that book or when you read that book, or we can get you excited to actually go and read that book. That's the whole purpose and point of any book review program. I hope every book review programmer or every book review program host aims for that, but that's the main focus and the main purpose for our programs. Is not necessarily to give you an in-depth review of the book, but just to bait you enough to say, you know what, I need to go get this book and find out everything that Lunga was talking about, has been talking about. Remember that's the whole point and purpose of our review program. Now, when we look at the book Focus by Daniel Goleman, The Hidden Driver of Excellence, part 1, and I'm going to be nitpicking in the sense that I'm going to be taking certain parts of certain chapters and just going into them, parts which I felt like they really excited me, then you guys will then read all the other parts. So this book is a book that has to do with neurology. It has to do with the systems, the psyche, the science of the brain. It helps someone who's not very scientific in their understanding of how the brain works, but it brings a scientific understanding to them in a very plain way. It gives a scientific understanding to a lame person, that any person, even if you're not a academically astute person, you'll be able to understand how the brain works. You'll be able to understand specifically how the brain of a leader works, or how the brain of someone who is a forerunner, or who is an innovator, or who is an inventor or creative works. There's a certain chemical balance, or there's a certain chemical understanding, there's a certain neuronic system network understanding that you need to know, being a person who's a leader, an innovator, or creative, on how your brain works. Because once you know how it works, you are able then to manipulate it for your own benefit. You're able to understand it for your own benefit. Because there are certain times that creatives, innovators, or even leaders, they go through certain things, they don't understand what the hell is going on. What do I mean? Example, I would tell you that a lot of leaders, or not leaders, but innovators, or creatives, or scientists, they find that the greatest ideas, or the greatest inventions, or the greatest creative perceptions that they'll ever have, they happen when they're not looking. They happen when on their day offs. They happen when their minds are relaxed. They happen when they are not actively and intentionally looking for something new, looking for something innovative, or trying to do something which has never been done before. They find that when they're not doing anything, when they're not working, then these great and these amazing ideas and these creative inspirations come to them. And they ask themselves that, how is it that when I'm actually looking for this new thing, this new breakthrough, this new idea, I don't find anything? I actually get frustrated trying to find it, as opposed to when I'm relaxed, when I'm chilling, when I'm just not doing anything that day, my day off, then these inspirations, these ideas, they come and they hit me hard. The reason why that is because of a neuronic system in your brain that's called bottom-top system. What do I mean? Whenever you're a person who, I believe that everyone is, that you read a lot, that you learn a lot, that you study a lot, that you are given a lot of information on a daily basis, even if it's not academic per se, but you take in a lot of information on a daily basis. Now, that information will not be consolidated at that very time. What do I mean? Everything that you have learned today, you will not understand it today. There are parts of information that you've received that you will just know based on your recitation of it, but you will not know it based on understanding it. The understanding of that information that you've received today may come in a week's time, may come in a month's time, may come in years' time. Do you understand? The reason why the understanding may come later is because your brain, if I'm not mistaken, there's a bottom part of your brain that consolidates information that you had received years ago, that you had received days ago, that you had received weeks ago, and brings an understanding. From that understanding, innovation, creativity, and inventions come about. And those inventions, innovations, and creative inspirations, they happen days after you receive that information. I mean, if someone gave you insight today pertaining to something, pertaining to a subject matter, pertaining to whatever conversation you guys were having. Let's say today is Monday, right? You may find that the understanding of that information that you guys shared with one another on Monday, the creative part of it, or the innovative part of it that comes from the understanding that you have received from your brain, only comes that other Wednesday. Why? Because from the moment that information was given to you, there was a consolidation that was happening in your brain whilst you were sleeping, whilst you were not even thinking about what you guys were talking about, whilst you were not even paying attention or focus to that information that you had then received. That's where creation comes about. So they get frustrated. They're like, when I'm actually trying to look for something new, I don't find it. But when I'm not looking, that's when I find it. That's where the understanding comes. There's a saying, I'd call it a folk's tale that says that when you look for love, you don't find it, but love always finds you when you're not looking. That kind of folktale saying. It's the same thing when it comes to innovation, creativity, and being a leader or being an artist, trying to invent, find new ways of doing things. That inspiration, that creative insight comes at that point in time. And Daniel Goleman speaks about this in part 1. Right, part 1 speaks about the anatomy of attention, right, and it has 4 subheadings, which speaks about the basic understanding of the anatomy of attention top bottom, which explains that network, right? You have, and I've said this on many other videos, that you have a network in your brain that's bottom, top, and top, bottom. Bottom top is something that comes to you naturally. Bottom top is something that you do without even thinking about it. Bottom top, in a sense, or in layman's terms, your subconscious, things that are just a part of you, things that come naturally to you. They only come naturally to you because they're working from the system of bottom top part of your brain, or network of your brain. And then you have the top bottom network of your brain. The top bottom network of your brain is that part of your brain whereby you are actively thinking, you are actively consolidating information, you are actively learning, you are actively studying, you are actively trying to learn a new trait, a new habit. The active part of your brain, right, the active element of your brain, that's what we call the top bottom network, or neuronic network, I hope that's the right terminology, part of your brain. Okay, so creative ideas and innovation come from the bottom top part of your brain, but active learning, active consumption of information, active what is this word? The ability to critically think, that comes from the top bottom part of your brain. So that's part 1. It speaks about all of this in part 1, and part 2 speaks about self-awareness. Right, 3 subheadings under that: the inner Bada. The second one is seeing others as they see you, and the third one is the recipe for self-control. One thing you need to understand is that self-control is a indication of self-awareness. Your lack of self-control tells me, in accordance to how Goleman perceived it or understands it or gives it to us, he says that for the fact that you have self-control tells me that you are self-aware. Anyone who lacks self-control is not aware of themselves. Self-control says that you know yourself very well. Self-control says that you know what are your likes and dislikes. Self-control says that you know what are the things that will tempt you. Self-control says that you know that if you do the certain things, this will be the outcome. There's a part of self-control whereby it's like you have a level of clairvoyancy when it comes to doing certain things or not doing certain things and knowing their outcome thereof. When I speak about clairvoyancy, I'm speaking about just like a prophetic element that if I do this, I know I will react in this way, or I'll know my body will react in this way. You know yourself so well, so hence why your self-control is very sharp, hence why your self-control is very disciplined, hence why your self-control is excellent. Okay, so self-awareness, the result of that is self-control. The outcome of that is self-control. If you do not have self-control, you are not self-aware. This is what Goleman says. Okay, then we have that seeing others how they see you. What do you say about that? Do you see yourself as how others see you? And this is a problem that a lot of creatives have, that how others see them as geniuses, as smart people, as innovators, as people who are in the forefront of their industry, as people who've broken boundaries and limits of what mankind always knew or never thought could be possible. They don't see themselves that way. They see themselves most of the time as not enough. They see themselves most of the time as I need to do more. They see themselves most of the time as so. This is the understanding that Goleman gives us, that do you see yourself the way that others see you? Okay, that's part 2. And then part 3 speaks about reading others. All right, there's an example which says the woman who knew too much, the empathy triad, and the social sensitivity. I don't want to go much into that, but you need to have EQ. What's EQ? Emotional intelligence. What is your knowing too much or reading people too much is a high level alert of a low EQ, emotional intelligence. Not everyone wants to be told, and not everything has to be said. You may read somebody and you may find that there are certain things about them that you know what, but if you apply wisdom to it, you would know when is the right time to address it. You don't have to address everything that you see there and then. No, that's not wisdom, right? Know when to speak, know when not to speak. Know when to speak at all and know when not to speak at all. There are certain things that you just never say. Why? Because you allow the person to go on a journey of discovery. Because what they would learn on a journey of discovery as opposed to what they would learn from you telling them may differ. What they would learn from themselves may have more of an impact and may have more of an effect as opposed to what they would learn about themselves from you telling them. So we need to apply wisdom when it comes to that, reading others. That is part 3. Part 4 speaks about the bigger context, patterns, systems, and messes. It speaks about system blindness. It speaks about distant threats. I don't want to go much into that. That's part 5 of the book. That's part 4 of the book, I mean. Then part 5 speaks about smart practice. I love this one. What does it say? The myth of 10,000 hours. What is the myth of 10,000 hours? And I've always said this actually on our other platforms, right? To say this, I am so sorry. It is hot out here. It is absolutely hot. So I have to check myself once in a while. Because talking, you tend to sweat and you tend to, your face comes oily because it's hot. So I just need to check myself once in a while. Okay, just allow me to check myself. Just allow me. Okay? So the question is, I didn't even bring out the tissue, but nonetheless. The question is, what is this 10,000 hours? What's the myth behind it? The myth behind 10,000 hours is this. It's not about how much time you put into something, but how effective that time is. The effectiveness of time has to do with the principles and strategies that you engage in that time in order to achieve that specific goal or in order to fulfill that specific task. I can do 10,000 hours in something and not be transformed, not change, and not become. What does that mean? If I don't learn the right skills, if I don't learn the right techniques, if I don't learn the right processes, if I'm not mentored, if I don't have counsel, and I keep on doing that very thing for 10,000 hours, who I was when I started that 10,000 hours as opposed to who I will be when that 10,000 hours is done, there won't be a difference. The only difference is that you just did 10,000 hours of something which you did not grow, which you did not learn, which you did not become, which you did not transform or change, which you did not become, you did not mature, you did not grow from that. So the whole principle of 10,000 hours has to do with, have you learned the right skills? Have you learned the right strategies? Have you used the right principles? Have you received counsel? Do you have mentors? Do you have a team? It's mastermind, if we look at it from the book of Think and Grow Rich. Within your 10,000 hours, how much growth are you looking from that 10,000 hours? Is your 10,000 hours effective? Is there a level of efficacy in your 10,000 hours? That's the question. So there is a myth behind 10,000 hours. It's not about that 10,000 hours, but it's about the work correctly put, correctly placed, and correctly learned that will bring about your growth, your becoming, your maturing, and your development at the end of the 10,000. Because at the end of the 10,000, we need to ask ourselves, have you grown? Have you learned? Have you become better? Have you become da 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 da? That's the whole point of 10,000 hours. Alright? So 10,000 hours is part 5 under smart practice. Then you have brain games, then you have breathing buddies. I'll do a breathing clip on one of our TikToks, because breathing is important. They use brain on games and breathing buddies, especially for kids, right? You need to teach your kids how to breathe. You need to teach them breathing techniques. You need to do breathing exercises with them. There's a lot of research that has went into how, when they have taught kids how to do breathing practices and breathing techniques, right? And they did that within a school environment, a school setting. And they found that the kids were much more calmer. They weren't rowdy, right? They were much more calmer. Even in the way that they did things, even in how their energy spiked. It spiked in such a way, in a manner that they were not wild, right? So there's an element of calmness that they introduced into the kids' anatomy, into the kids' mindset, into the kids' lives from the breathing practices. Okay, but I won't go much into detail. You guys must read this book. And then chapter 6, or part 6, speaks about a well-focused leader. How leaders direct attention. That's the first subheading under part 6. The leaders triple focus and what makes a leader. Right, that's chapter 6. And then chapter 7 speaks about the big picture, right, which is one subheading, leading for the future. And there's something that I've learned from this book that will forever be a takeaway. And Daniel Goleman says this, that in order to impact the world, in order to effect change, in order to bring about effective change, you need to effect, impact, infiltrate systems. Changing one thing that's a part of a bigger system won't really make much of an impact, won't really make much of a difference. Yes, it may just shift or alter things within that system, but it won't change the system at large. You need to look at problem solving from a system perspective. If you want to solve this problem, ask yourself, what system is this problem a part of? Because if I solve this problem, right, it will not solve the entire system at large, because what made this problem exist was the system in which it is a part of. So if you change the system, if you impact the system, if you affect the system, ultimately that problem will then be addressed. So when you look at problems, or when you're solving problems, when you bring solutions, don't bring solutions at a neuronic level. Don't bring solutions at a minute level. Look at the solutions that you want to bring, or the change that you want to bring. Ask yourself, how will this change, right? Trying to change this specific thing, how will it impact the system that it's a part of at large? To change the world is not to change things, but to change systems, which those things are a part of. When you see something wrong, look at that thing and look at the system that thing is a part of, or the system that thing is in relationship with. come up with a solution that will change that thing and will effectively or ultimately affect the system it's a part of. Systems is what will change the world, not changing things that are part of systems. Because you can change a thing in a system, but does not mean that the system will change. But if you change the system that things are part of, it will ultimately result in that thing ultimately changing, because that thing exists because of its system. That answer that Daniel Goleman gave was absolutely priceless. Right? We are done. I'm not going to go into the depths of that book in its entirety. Be sure to get it. Again, I say this book is, the author is Daniel Goleman. The book is called Focus, The Hidden Driver of Excellence. And this book speaks to leaders, innovators, creatives, speaks to artists, it speaks to leaders, innovators, artists, scientists. Yes, people who are at the forefront of their industry or the forefront of their field. So if you're somebody within that category, or within that group, within that nomenclature, be sure that you get that book. Be sure to also subscribe. I'm gonna put the subscribe somewhere up there. Be sure to subscribe to our channel, right? Because why? Why should you subscribe to our channel? Because we love learning. That's it. That's why you should subscribe. If you're someone who loves learning, if you're someone who loves knowing things, if you are someone who loves just growing, developing, subscribe to our channel. I don't know any other reason to tell you why to subscribe to our channel. The content that we give is absolutely absolute. Okay, though that statement is philosophically wrong, but it's absolutely absolute. I'm gonna say it for saying sake, right? We have many other programs on our platform, and you'll only know this if you visit our channel at _Mutelezi on the YouTube platform, and you see the different programs that would benefit you. Whether you wanna grow mentally, whether you wanna grow spiritually, right? We cater for both of those things. Okay, we cater. We have Bible programs, and we have programs that are like book reviews, which look at books on the psyche of success and Christian literature. Go through our channel and see what works for you, but definitely you'll find something, right? We have a buffet of content that caters for the masses. Love you guys all. God bless.